The thought of Jesus' betrayal and departure would have greatly disheartened the disciples. To console them, Jesus instructed the disciples, "Let not your hearts be troubled." The disciples would calm their hearts by faith. Jesus further instructs them to believe in God, believe also in me. Believe in God, believe also in me. The word believe appears twice in this phrase. Believe in God, believe also in me. Now, this one word could be translated from the Greek either as a statement of fact or a command or a combination of the two. Here's what I mean. The first believe could be translated as a statement so that it reads, "You believe in God." The second believe can be translated as a command, "Believe also in me." So that the phrase which from this morning's gospel read, "Believe in God, believe also in me," could be read, "You believe in God, believe also in me." Now, this is how the translation in Greek reads in some of our various Bibles. The King James Version has it this way: "Ye believe in God, believe also in me." Ye being the Old English word for you. You believe in God, believe also in me. In the Amplified Bible translation, some New International Versions, that translation reads, "You believe in God, believe also in me." The Message, which is a popular paraphrased version of the Bible, reads like this: "You trust God, don't you? Trust me." The opening words of the gospel this morning, as translated in the English Standard Version before us, what's on the bulletin insert, reads, "Believe in God, believe also in me." Now, this is the same translation that we have in the New Revised Standard Version, as well as its predecessor, the Revised Version of the Bible. The reason I mention all this is because I'm going to use both translations intermittently in this morning's sermon. The point is that after Jesus' crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension, the disciples will find comfort in affirming that Jesus is the incarnation of God, remembering the words that he had spoken to them. You believe in God, a statement of fact. You believe in God, and believe also in me, a gentle command. He's saying, I am God incarnate, I'm God in the flesh, I'm God in human skin. A research arm of the Southern Baptist Convention surveyed over 1,400 unchurched adults to determine emerging attitudes towards God and religion. The survey defined the unchurched as those who had not attended a religious service, whether it was in a church, a synagogue, or a mosque during the previous 6 months. The survey found that 72% of those surveyed felt that the church was full of hypocrites. This is unchurched folks, okay? They look at the church and they say, 72% of them said in the survey that the church is full of hypocrites. And 44% agreed with the statement that, and I'm quoting, Christians get on my nerves. Maybe some of you might be familiar with that statement too. Of these 1,400 unchurched adults surveyed, 72% believed that, and I'm quoting, God, a higher power or supreme being, actually exists. Again, the gospel lesson for today begins with Jesus saying, do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. And then Jesus adds, believe also in me. Or as I suggested earlier, it could be translated, you believe in God, believe also in me. In the survey, 71% of the unchurched agreed that believing in Jesus, believe also in me, believing in Jesus makes a positive difference in a person's life. There's little doubt that faith in God and faith in Jesus still remains strong within American culture. What seems more in doubt is the place of the church in that faith stream. To rational minds, one says the two go together, like a horse and a carriage. We do know that over the long term, faith as profiled in the Bible cannot long endure without the church being faithful to its charge to teach about God and Jesus and the implications of believing. When Jesus says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled, believe in God, believe also in me," he issues an invitation that comes even today into a society that is searching for faith amidst the tensions and troubles and the challenges of life. Garrison Keillor wrote a thoughtful column that had this headline, "The Nativity Story and the Mystery of Faith." He wrote, and I'm quoting, "This magical story is the cornerstone of the Christian faith, and I'm sorry if it's a big hurdle to the skeptical young. It is to the church what his Kryptonian heritage was to Clark Kent. It enables us to stop speeding locomotives and leap tall buildings at a single bound, and also love our neighbors as ourselves. Without the nativity," he writes, "we become a sort of lecture series and a coffee club with not very good coffee and sort of aimless lectures." I think he's referring to sermons as aimless lectures. Well, Garrison Keillor hasn't tasted the coffee that we have here at St. Paul, has he? His point is well taken, though. To believe in Jesus is a crucial part of the biblical revelation of a faith journey. Jesus presents himself as an invitation to leave our troubles behind and settle the anxiety of our hearts. That might seem strong, but he does say, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." Lindsay Tanner of the Associated Press reports on a study of nearly 10,000 people that documents that a lousy marriage might literally make you sick. Marital strife and other bad personal relationships can raise your risk for heart disease. The study went on to reveal, and I'm quoting, "Those with the worst close relationships were 34% more likely to have heart attacks or other heart trouble during 12 months of follow-up than those who had good relationships." And this included partners and close relatives and friends. But the study mentions heart attacks, heart disease, heart trouble. And Jesus said, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." Jesus didn't have studies to back up his invitation to clear one's heart of trouble, but he was deeply aware of the need for an anchor in life that holds one steady in the midst of life's upheavals and temptations and worries. It is good to note that Jesus clearly indicates that we have control over troubled hearts. We have control over our troubled hearts. He says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me." Now, we can't always control the troubles that come into our lives, but we do have control over how that trouble resides in us. We do live in a world of troubled hearts. In Columbus, the families of two fifth-grade boys were scheduled for counseling because of difficulties between the two boys. One of the boys was accused of bullying the other. Well, when the families met in the parking lot, they got into a fight. One male adult hit the other. He fell, striking his head on the pavement, and later died from the injury. That same man who did the striking was arrested that same day on related charges of burglary. Troubled hearts. Our troubled hearts are more likely to be concerned about loved ones. Parents can have troubled hearts about children, as did the parents of the boy who had been bullied in school. Adult children can have troubled hearts about aging parents. In today's environment, we find that hearts are troubled because of strains in relationships, or worries about employment, or lack of sufficient income, or a desire to support loved ones in ways that are not compatible with available income. The economy is troublesome for many of us. Health issues can cause troubled hearts. Jesus offers what appears to be a simple solution. Believe in God, believe also in me. We know it is not simple. Faith is forever in many people's lives a constant challenge. There are so many reasons to give up on the church, and if one gives up on the church, then the nurture of Jesus ends, and faith becomes whatever one wants it to be. And faith itself in so many, even within faithful churchgoers, is not in step with New Testament faith, or more specifically, the faith Jesus taught. The invitation of Jesus, do not let your hearts be troubled, believe in God, believe also in me, is a faith to let go in all things and trust that God will be there for you no matter what happens. It is a faith that believes that troubles in this world will not pass into eternity. They'll stay here. It is a faith that believes that following the way of Jesus brings inner peace and contentment and stability. It is a faith that says to look at Jesus is to see the face of God. As Jesus reminded Philip, whoever has seen my face, or whoever has seen me, has seen the Father. It is a faith that says troubles come, indeed they do come, but a faith in God and in Jesus can handle any trouble. Faith is a gift that Jesus offers. When Jesus talks about mansions in the heavens and rooms and dwelling places, he's talking about something that enables us to see the bigger picture. He's preparing his followers, he's preparing us for something greater. Jesus would not go to prepare a place for those who have put their faith in him unless he would come again and receive them to himself. There was someone I once knew who learned that her cancer had become terminal. There was much she would have liked to keep enjoying: her loving husband, children, and grandchildren, her work, her home, and her horses, and her church family, wonderful people with whom she had worshiped, people she loved and cared about, and had fellowship with. On one occasion, when I, as her pastor, visited with her, she said, "I have so much to be grateful for: my family, my home, my friends, and our church. Most of all, I am grateful that I know Jesus." It would be wonderful to live here on earth longer, but I know Jesus has a place for me as well. So the way I figure it, I cannot lose whether I live here or die and go to be with Jesus. A reality of life is that we are earthbound. There would be something terribly wrong with us if we didn't care about the conditions of humanity here on earth. We care about the suffering caused by famine, war, injustice, greed, terrorism, disease, and all the other events or evils that cause trouble. It is in our earthboundness that Jesus comes to us and invites us to look to him for compassion for those in need and forgiveness for our trespasses and a trust that somehow God is in control and will not desert this sometimes mess that we know as our world. Jeffrey McDonald, writing in U.S. Today, reports that a growing number of Americans are recognizing a need to develop their inner life, if not as a spiritual practice, as a way to cultivate balance and depth in an increasingly hectic, chaotic 24/7 world. He wrote, and I'm quoting, too many people focusing on their inner life means cultivating a closer relationship with God, perhaps by developing other spiritual disciplines. To others, it may be a more secular quest for tranquility and connectedness. For us, as God believers and Jesus believers, the invitation keeps on coming to us. It keeps coming. The invitation is there. Jesus says, do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. It is an invitation that keeps on coming. Believe in me. It is an invitation that transcends any secular quest for tranquility and connectedness, of which the person wrote about in U.S. Today, Jeffrey McDonald. It is also an invitation that comes from Jesus, who lived out a life of tranquility and connectedness in the midst of trials and tribulations, attacks and rejections. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Jesus says, believe also in me. Amen.